Hey everyone, and welcome to another deep dive.
Yeah.
Today, we're going to be diving into a transcript
Yeah.
that we found called Easy English Learning Made for You.
Sounds promising.
I know, right? Like it was made just for our listeners.
Exactly.
So this deep dive is really for anyone out there who wants to, really improve their English fluency, but isn't really into those traditional,
Yeah, like the old
Well,
textbook
direct-
grammar drills. Yeah.
right.
So one of the things that really stood out to me about this transcript was just this idea of like ditching the fear.
Yeah, that's so important.
I know, and it's something that you and I have talked about before, but this source like really emphasizes it, you
Yes,
know?
it does.
It's not just like, oh, just relax. It's like
Right.
they actually explain how fear can like really hold you back.
Exactly. I mean, when you're so worried about making mistakes, you just don't speak.
Right.
And then you're not getting the practice that you need
Yeah.
to actually get better. Totally.
Yeah.
And it creates that that cycle
Yeah, a vicious cycle.
where you're just like afraid to speak so you don't, and then because you don't speak, you don't improve.
Exactly. You're just stuck.
It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy almost.
It is. And I love how this source talks about, viewing English as like a friend,
Oh, yeah.
not some scary monster that you have to conquer,
It's like welcoming English into your life
Mhm.
rather than being intimidated by it.
Right. And when you approach it that way, like with a sense of curiosity and playfulness,
Yeah.
you're going to learn so much faster.
Absolutely. And it makes the whole process so much more enjoyable.
Sure.
Now, speaking of making it enjoyable, they had this really cool section
Oh, yeah.
called Everyday Vocabulary Magic.
I love that.
Such a good name, right?
It is.
So tell me a little bit about what that technique is all about.
Sure. So basically, it's this simple idea. You pick one new word every day,
Okay.
and you try to use it in 5 different conversations.
Oh, I see.
So the example they gave was the word remarkable.
Okay.
And instead of just kind of like, memorizing the definition,
Yeah,
you actually try to use it in real sentences.
that makes sense.
So you might say, this coffee is remarkably good. Or, wow, you handled that situation remarkably well.
Oh, I like that.
Right. And by the end of the day, you've not only learned the word,
Yeah.
you've used it,
You've practiced it.
and you're more likely to remember it.
It's like active learning instead of passive, really.
Exactly.
So much better than just staring at flashcards all day.
Oh, for sure.
Another thing I thought was interesting was this source really isn't fixated on perfect pronunciation.
It's not about the accent, is it?
It's not. It's more about communicating clearly and effectively,
Exactly.
which I think is a really refreshing perspective.
I agree. I mean, don't get me wrong, good pronunciation is important.
Sure.
They do actually touch on a few techniques, like linking words.
Linking words. What's that?
So it's where you kind of pronounce words together in a phrase rather than separately.
Okay.
Like instead of saying, can I go out, you'd say, can you go out?
Can it go out?
Exactly. Yeah, it helps your English sound more natural.
Makes sense.
But the point they're making is you shouldn't let worrying about your pronunciation stop you from actually speaking.
Yeah, don't let perfection be the enemy of good, right?
Exactly.
One other thing I wanted to touch on was their section on listening.
Oh, yeah, they had some great tips.
Yeah, they recommend things like listening to podcasts, YouTube videos,
Watching movies.
movies, both with and without subtitles.
Yeah, it's all about training your ear.
I mean, I remember when I was learning Spanish, watching movies with subtitles was a game changer.
Oh, absolutely. You start to pick up on those subtle things like intonation, the rhythm of the language.
It's like immersing yourself in the sounds of English,
Exactly. And the more you listen, the more natural it will start to sound.
and then it becomes easier to actually speak it too. Right.
Exactly.
Because you're familiar with the sounds.
Yeah, you're kind of building that foundation.
I like that. And then they also talk about, actually using English in everyday situations.
Right. Like starting casual conversations,
Asking questions confidently.
understanding slang and idioms, all that good stuff.
It's not enough to just know the textbook stuff.
Right.
You have to know how to actually use the language.
In the real world.
Yeah, in the real world with real people.
With all its quirks.
So how do you stay motivated throughout this whole process? Because, learning a language, it takes time.
It does.
It takes effort.
Yeah.
It takes dedication.
It can be frustrating.
Exactly. So how do you keep that momentum going?
Well, this source emphasizes focusing on progress, not perfection.
Okay. Yeah.
It's about celebrating those small wins along the way.
I like that. It's like giving yourself credit for how far you've come.
Exactly. And using those small victories as motivation to keep going.
instead of getting bogged down by the mistakes.
Right, because you're going to make mistakes. Everyone does.
Totally.
But it's how you learn from them.
It's part of the process.
It is.
So the source we're looking at today actually ends with like a homework section.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, but I want to do something a little different.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
I want to challenge you, our listeners, to pick just one thing that really resonated with you today.
Ooh, good idea.
Whether it's the everyday vocabulary magic or the listening tips or anything else, and actually try it out before our next deep dive.
I love that challenge.
And as you're exploring that, maybe think about, what aspect of English do you find most challenging right now?
Yeah, is it speaking confidently? Is it understanding native speakers when they talk fast? Is it building your vocabulary? Whatever it is, there's a resource out there for you.
And we've given you a bunch of ideas today,
So take that challenge, pick one thing, and see how much you can improve.
there you have it. Learning English can be fun, and it's about being understood, not perfect.
And remember, keep learning, keep growing, and keep speaking English.
We'll see you in the next deep dive.
Bye for now.
Bye.